All right, the breaking news. Not, I mean, or a huge surprise for some of us, but Georgia number one in the college football playoff rankings going into the SEC championship game. What does that mean? All right, y'all don't. You're not just here for me to, give you breaking news. You're here for me to explain what it really means. The reality is now only a loss to LSU moves Georgia from playing in Atlanta. They're in the playoff. Michigan, I think, is sort of convincingly in the playoff. I think TCU is almost certainly, but maybe not quite in the playoff. But if Georgia beats LSU, they're an 18.5 point favorite the last time I looked. They will play a home game against either, well, I will say three teams: TCU, USC, or Ohio State. Alabama is out of this thing now. There's no more games for them to play. They will miss the playoff. This is going to be the first year since 2019 that they missed the playoff. Clemson missed the playoff 2 years in a row now. After loss to South Carolina, LSU spoiled themselves with that loss to Texas A&M, inexplicable loss to Texas A&M. But for Michigan and Georgia, to me, who have certainly been two of the best three teams, but I think looking back on it, Georgia and Michigan are the best two teams in college football. Now, Michigan made certain everybody was aware of that over the weekend with the win over Ohio State. And everyone said, well, they have the best win, they have the best win. They do have the best win. But they have a really bad. I mean, Georgia played two Power Five schools in their 12-game schedule that were not conference games. Michigan didn't play any, and that's just not a good way to go about doing things if you're trying to get to the playoff. It's also slightly concerning, I would say, if you're Georgia looking at next year's schedule. I would get on I'd get on the phone with Gary Stokan and see if I could get a game to open the season at the Peach Bowl and just say, hey, we'll play on Sunday. We'll play on Sunday. We'll play on Monday night. But it's not what you want. Not getting a good game. But Georgia at the one. Hey, listen, make sure you're picking up the Kelee Ringo signed edition of DAWGSTRUCTION. We do not have tons of these. If y'all recall, we had the Kelee Ringo event. The link is down below. Our friends at Red Zone have something really cool for you as well. If you want to go buy the book in Athens, if you are in Athens, you can get the book here. Let me try to get this on the screen. This is this nowhere to run shirt. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide shirt. So if you get the book, you got to go to Red Zone. If you live in Athens, you want the book for Christmas, holidays, go grab it there. They'll give you that in your size for free. That's only in Red Zone, okay? So I think, to me, let me set it up a little deeper for those of y'all who stick with me further in these videos. This is going to be a situation for Georgia where they have set themselves up as well as you can. They just have. They're going to be the biggest SEC championship game favorite since Alabama played Florida in 2016, I think it was. They can lose and win and go on in the playoff. I don't think they're planning on losing. They can play in Atlanta, which is something that you really want to do if you're Georgia or Alabama or Clemson. I don't think Clemson has ever played in the Peach Bowl during the playoffs. Now, I could be wrong about that, but I don't recall that because they played in the Orange a couple times and Sugar, which has not been nice to them. But these sort of local schools that play in the playoff, and those three are the only ones that have been locals. You want to play in Atlanta if you can. Michigan would prefer to play in Atlanta. But now, if you look at the totality of where we're at here in the college football playoff, Alabama cannot. They're out. So they're headed to the Sugar Bowl unless LSU beats Georgia. So there's a little mystery in terms of the Sugar Bowl. It will either be LSU or Alabama. If LSU doesn't pull the upset, you're looking at Alabama playing in the Sugar Bowl. It is mandated. Okay, they would replace the SEC's number one team. If LSU were to win it, they would go. Then after that, it would be, I believe, Tennessee will go to the Orange Bowl to play the ACC champion, whether that is Clemson or North Carolina. The loser of that game is not going to be playing in the college football playoff. Right now, if you can start looking at the situation for bowls, anybody who's in the top 12, you're in good shape. If you're not in the top 12, you're not playing in one of these bowls, and you might not even be, in great position otherwise. I mean, the Rose Bowl is going to have to replace a team, which could be SC, in which case that could be Utah going. You've got multiple Pac-12s in the top 12. You've got SC, Utah, and Washington. You've got multiple Southeastern Conference. You've got Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee all in the first 7 picks. But LSU is now on the outside looking in for a bowl in terms of college football playoff bowl. They are probably not going to get into one now. So it looks like the Orange Bowl will either, now it doesn't have to be Tennessee. Tennessee can go to the Cotton Bowl too, but the Orange Bowl, I believe, is mandated to take the highest of the two remaining Big Ten, uh, the remaining Big Ten or uh, uh, SEC or Notre Dame. So when I said Tennessee would go to the Orange, there's still some work to be done on all of that front. If Ohio State does not get in, they will go to the Orange Bowl. No, they would go to the Rose Bowl to replace Michigan. There's all sorts of a mess. So Tennessee would still go to the Orange. You see why this is all a mess? This is why you want to be in the playoff, because then you know what's happening. For Georgia, this means if they beat LSU, it means that they will play in Atlanta in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Gary Stokan and company. This would be your third game at the Mercedes-Benz, the Georgia Dome's replacement. It would be a great. It would be a tremendous home crowd for the Dogs. I'll tell you that right now. And I think to me, um, you know, whether you're talking about USC, Ohio State, or TCU, let's just say those three teams are sort of the, you know, the I don't see a scenario. The only scenario where I see Georgia and Michigan playing in the first round is if they both lose and TCU does not, and even then, um, I don't know if that would be what would happen. Okay, um, but they're not going to both lose. I mean, the likelihood of Georgia losing, Michigan losing, and TCU winning. I mean, TCU is like a 2-point favorite or a 3-point favorite. TCU is the one that I think is a little more teeter totter right now. But we'll know Friday night if essentially the field is set. Ohio State could get in with a loss by TCU in theory. I just don't think that's what's going to happen, y'all. I mean, I think TCU is probably in. They're an undefeated team, and the real focus here has been what's going to happen with USC. For Georgia, again, though, with all the other what ifs away, because these 4 teams are probably going to win this weekend, setting up a playoff of 3 undefeateds and 1 one-loss team. In that case, um, if that were to happen, Georgia would host. They would have a tremendous crowd. I think the only team that's out there in this playoff realm that would even come close to sort of fighting them in Atlanta would be Ohio State. That would be it. Michigan and Ohio State could bring fans to Atlanta. They just wouldn't. Um, I just don't. They're not going to outbuy the Dogs in Atlanta. They're just not going to. And I think that that's another thing to keep in mind is it is all in front of you if you're Georgia. You have the capability of winning your 14th SEC championship. That would make you number 2 all time. You could wave goodbye to Tennessee on that front that you've had since 2017, a tie there. You could lock up home field advantage until the championship game. You could, in theory, play the only team and eliminate them from playing a home game in Los Angeles by beating SC on a home field in Atlanta. You'd have that, ability too. So I just think that this is really set up well for Georgia, and not by luck or happenstance. They have earned this. How? They throttled Oregon. They beat Tennessee's butts. They killed South Carolina. Not a close game at all. And if you look at this, I mean, there's not going to be anybody with more quality wins than Georgia if they beat LSU. You'd have the Tennessee win, you'd have the LSU win, the Oregon win, the South Carolina win, and the Mississippi State win. And that's why that they're number one. I mean, part of it is because of the way they beat Tennessee, the way they beat Oregon. Michigan has a really good win over Ohio State, and they beat their skulls in. Let me tell you, I don't think that's a great matchup. I do not think that's a great matchup for Ohio State, which means I don't think it'd be a great matchup for them against Georgia. But anyway, um, they got beat. They got whipped on their home field. They got beat by Michigan in back-to-back years in blowouts, really. So I think you could not if it's that is one game. Georgia has had an entire season of not coming down to the wire except for one game. So I think Michigan and Georgia, to me, right now, look like they're barreling towards the national championship game. We still have a little work to do, right? I mean, like the dishes are not up. We got to clean them, rinse them. Like my in-laws, they rinse the dishes before they put them in the dishwasher. No, no. We just that's what it is. It is a dishwasher. We don't need a dish rinser and a dishwasher. Jeff Foxworthy, if you're watching this, I will let you use that bit. I will let you use that bit. Okay, I'm not. There's no institution intellectual property here. You just go with it, my friend. But I think this is Georgia's in a good position right now. Now let's just see how this progresses. You win against LSU, you're in good shape. You lose to LSU, you're probably heading to Phoenix, and we don't really know what happens next. I don't think playing TCU in the first round is the end of the world if that's what it wound up being. You know. Now I said Alabama's done. I just don't see a scenario where two-loss Alabama jumps one-loss TCU. That's the thing to me. They would have to jump two teams. I just don't. I don't see it. So I didn't see Georgia getting jumped at one this week. It didn't happen. I think they are probably going to play in Los Angeles for the national championship. We will see. There are two games to play before that that are both pretty big. But Georgia's going to be a big favorite at home. I mean, Ohio State in Atlanta would probably be an 8-point dog, maybe 6 to 8 point dog. I don't know if Ohio State's going to be there. Okay, so we'll just see how this goes. But I think right now Georgia's positioned about as well as you can ask. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the site.